Hey guys, we're back for another one. Just gonna make a quick video here for those of you guys that are new to reefing. If you're new to the space or you need help or you're re-entering the hobby, this is the channel that you want to be watching. Right now we're 12 weeks into a reef aquarium. Again, don't have any experience outside of the 12 weeks, but we do have a lot of community members that are helping us out. But I figured I'd make this video because it's coming to mind, and it's around what to do with your reef tank if you're going on vacation, which hopefully all of us get to do at least once or twice a year, right? So that was a big concern for me when I first entered the hobby, was how am I going to take care of these guys, okay, when I go away? Right? At the end of the day, we want to be able to enjoy our hobby. I'll tell you guys a story. I used to have bonsais when I was younger, and I went out of town for a couple of months, left them with my family, gave them explicit instructions on what to do, came back, all the bonsais were gone, okay, unrecoverable. So, I never re-entered that hobby. And when you get into keeping animals or fish or coral and you spend all this time putting it all together, the last thing you want to do is go away and your tank has crashed. And guys, we could kind of see a little glimpse of the pistol shrimp. He's kind of hanging out in there. You can kind of see him. These guys are hungry. I think that's what it is. But I mean, he's so fast that he'll quickly dart out. Oh, there you go. Isn't that amazing, guys? But anyways, let's get on with it. So if we're going on vacation, what are we going to do, right? So if you have a nano tank like this, again, salinity swings are a pretty big deal. So a lot of our community members are saying I should invest in a water top-off unit, especially if you don't have someone that can top the water off while you're away, right? We would hope that maybe a family member could come by and feed, top up your water, maybe do a water change. But again, folks that don't have saltwater tanks typically are afraid that they don't want to wreck your tank, and they don't want you to hold them responsible for that. So I get it. So one of the things that we could do is set up an auto top off unit so that when water goes below a certain level, the top off unit is working. So that's something maybe that I'm going to need to invest in, a small one for a tank like this, as well as a small reservoir, okay? So make sure that that's working, because at the end of the day, you don't want a big salinity swing and have an issue with your livestock, okay? Because apparently that could be, a big deal, right? As water evaporates, salinity goes up, it slowly starts to swing the tank, the coral and the fish are impacted. So make sure your reservoir is full of water, more than you need for the time that you're going to be away. So some folks, I don't know whether this will be a controversial one, but when you guys go away on vacation, do you have someone feed, or do you use an automatic feeder? And to be honest, it's crazy that you can ask folks and be like, this is all you need to do. Take the frozen food and put it in there once a day, right? Or once every 2 days, right? Because we know fish and coral could probably last at least a week without it. But let's say we feed them every second day. Can you go into my freezer and pull out a little bit of frozen food and put it in? Apparently that can be a lot to ask for. So some people, because they lack familiarity, they don't have the confidence in the hobby. We have to make it super easy for them. So you might need to pre-cut some food, leave detailed instructions on how to feed these guys. Maybe show them if you can, right? Send them a quick video. This is how you chop up the food. This is how much you give them. This is how we do it. And you can do the same for dry food. But if you don't have somebody, an automatic feeder, how has that worked out with you guys? I have concerns about using an automatic feeder, but I've seen lovely add-ons that fit right around there, and they're able to dispense the food on a timer, and it would be mostly dry food, right? So ideally you want to test the feeder before you go away and feed it less than normal. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure how they work. I've never had one. I used to use feeder cubes in the freshwater hobby. Not ideal. Sometimes it was okay, sometimes it wasn't. So as I said, I've spent 12 weeks investing into this aquarium. Really don't want to wreck it by overfeeding. So equipment failures are less likely to happen, but we can consider things like power bars, or they'll have their own dedicated battery system that can help. Should there be a power outage, it can cover those things, right? So if you have a skimmer, you want to empty your skimmer. If you have a filter sock, you want to empty these things. You might want to do some pre-maintenance before you leave. So that would be things like a water change, right? So maybe do a larger percentage water change. Do a 30% water change if you're going to be using the auto feeder. Clean your sponge or your filter sock, replace your filter floss, do all those maintenance things, clean your equipment, make sure, any dried up salt along the rim is gone. Like I'm starting to see a little bit of salt creep. So get rid of all that stuff, right? Make sure your tank is clean. And, with respect to the water change, folks are saying to do this within 2 to 4 days before you leave on your trip, right? So clean the glass, things like empty the skimmer, test the salinity of your water, your alkalinity, your nitrate, and your phosphates. And again, if you guys have more sophisticated corals, you guys would dose and do all that sort of stuff. That's probably beyond my skill at this point. So I am not dosing, but I'm being told to add certain things like reefroids to the aquarium, which would help just with the coloring and the overall health of the coral. So haven't gotten that far. There's also little cameras that you can set up. I know Wise has some, so that you can set them up along the side of the tank, and then you can you're able to monitor your tank while you're away, right? So you can actually have a little camera that's running and you can check on your livestock, which would be pretty awesome. So there's also smart Wi-Fi plugs. So you'd have all your equipment plugged in. So for example, I mentioned in my prior video that I want to upgrade the light, right? So the light sits along the top here, right? And Fluval makes their own branded lights that allow you to control them remotely. Now, I'm sure other brands like AI Blade, AI Prime, or even a Wi-Fi plug would allow you to turn those lights on and off. So there's also more sophisticated equipment out there that will tell you, the temperature of your tank. They can alert you when there's temperature swings, etc. I don't know that I need that. I just think I need an auto feeder, a top-off unit, and a light I can control remotely so that I can give these guys light, daylight, or at least turn that light on, a nice darker light. Because I feel like, I would be inclined to leave the light off in its entirety. That's what it looks like with no light. But apparently coral needs light, and I just don't want to cause issues. So yeah, I mean, the camera I think would be helpful too, to monitor the water level, right? So if you didn't have a top off unit, and it's interesting because I've read things about like if you have someone to babysit your tank, or a tank sitter, so to speak, you want to pre-measure food. I think that's pretty important. I think folks that aren't in the hobby have the tendency to overfeed. So have them in cups or little bags that they can use. What else can we do here? Yeah, I mean, just leave them instructions that they can refer back to. And yeah, I think, in some cases, sometimes it's best, depending on how long you're going away, it's best for them, if they don't know, not to do anything. Right? As I said, I don't think I would ever leave anyone with the expectation to change my water, just because I don't feel folks have enough knowledge unless you actually show them, or they have their own reef tank, right? But the big principles I think that we need to stick to is make sure that we're cleaning, that we get the automations that make sense for our tanks, right? And you can always you can always anticipate and think of what could go wrong, but at the same time, like, what's the probability of some of these things, right? Like, what's the probability? I mean, I have an outage in my neighborhood maybe about once a year, maybe once every 2 years if there's a lot of snow. So, I typically go away in the spring, so it's not really really going to be an issue. Usually the power kicks back on. I guess it is possible, but to be honest, I don't know that I would invest in a backup battery. You guys have to ask yourselves that, and it really depends on the size of your setup, right? Like, you spent hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars on your coral. Like, do you really want things going sideways on you? I mean, it's good to look at these things, right? Like, Anchor is they sell sell batteries, essentially, like units that allow you to power things when power goes out. So, I mean, maybe the Wise camera is an excellent thing that you can at least use to monitor your tank, and then if there's kind of an emergency situation or you have an alert go off, then you can quickly call a family member or a friend and have them help you out. But at any rate, guys, that's more or less it. I mean, in terms of, I think, the things that I want to do when I go away, or at least prepare, because the worst thing you can do is not prepare, and then you have like 2 days to get everything ready when you're trying to like pack and relax and go on your vacation. So ideally, if I could take care of some of these things ahead of time, then when I go away, it'll just be more automated. I can have my reservoir, I can have my top-off system, hopefully a light that I can control remotely. Believe me, I have the remote lights for my home, and half the time, it's like 50% of the time you're able to turn them off when you're away remotely. So Wi-Fi systems are not necessarily 100% optimal. If there's a solution that you guys have that would help with controlling lights or equipment remotely, if you have one that's worked well for you and you want to share it in the comments, please let us know. I know some of you guys are super experienced. You probably have huge tanks that you take care of with lots of, precious livestock and coral. Let us know what you do. What do you guys do when you go away? Is really the easiest thing to just get a family member to come by, or a friend? Or, is anyone out there just rely on automation? So, I mean, some of these things are pretty amazing. It's pretty remarkable that you can control lighting and camera equipment and all these things over the internet. Like, none of this stuff really existed probably, 10, 15 years ago. As I said, I remember myself when I first got like a security camera, and then you found yourself looking at it more often than not. So I know folks use cameras for puppies. I had never heard about it for aquariums until recently, until I recently saw a video with the Wise camera. But seems like an awesome idea, and it might be something that I consider. If anyone's using a Wise camera, let us know, or any other camera to monitor their aquarium. At any rate, guys, it seems as though there are endless upgrades that you could possibly take, but at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, what's in the budget, what makes sense, and what's going to work for our own situation. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Have a great one, and on to the next.